Hi, how are you? And welcome. My name is Brianna Warner, and I am a yoga coach, a yoga teacher and nutrition coach. And I'm here to talk about the mood, and your gut, right? How we're feeling versus what we're eating. So let me go ahead and get this started. All right, so who am I, right? When I was in my 20s, in my late 20s, I had a weight loss change, and it wasn't just um, the weight that lifted off of me physically, it was emotionally as well. And the form of exercise that I decided to gravitate towards was yoga and hot yoga specifically, coming from being an athlete my whole life. But then, not really being confident. So when I stopped playing organized sports, I stopped working out. I was still eating the same crappy foods I was eating from childhood and the noodles. So I got to a point where like I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't looking good. My roommate who had lost 100 pounds was giving me her fat clothes. And I was like, nah, B, this has to change. Like, why is this happening? And I was lucky enough to have somebody who had gone through a change, right, and was eating healthy foods, and we cooked together and we motivated each other. And so when I was able to be a yoga coach a nutrition coach in 2018, it was like, yeah, like I know can be hard, right? Like weight loss is emotional before it's physical. And, I had the pleasure of having somebody help me, and I would love nothing better than to help somebody gain their confidence back, right? And feel better in their skin. So my goal is I love my mom, so I'm helping my busy moms achieve joy and confidence in their lives and their bodies. And I use a blend of mindset coaching with nutrition strategies, right? I make it easy for you to put it in your day, because we're all busy, right? So let's get into it. So, gut, right? So, you're having that sinking feeling in your stomach, and every area of your life can suffer, right? The gut drives everything from the way your body feels to the instinct that governs your actions, right? Like we call that the gut instinct, right? And all the little microbes, right, that are physically in your gut as well, right? So when you're sick, right, learning how to balance the gut and bringing it back into line can really, help speed up the time that you're sick, right? Sometimes the gut is to blame when you're sick. And, in this fast paced world, we're not all eating clean food. So sometimes we may get sick and then it may exacerbate, right? Like you may get even more sick because you're not eating those iron rich, nutrient rich foods that you need to be eating to support health, and you're just eating the processed bread or, the high in fat or, whatever you're eating that has led you to this webinar to learn more about the gut, right? So the gut, right, is the stomach, but it's also the pancreas and the liver, right? The digestive tract, anything that really helps to move the food along, right, through the process getting to the end, which is, right, the bowel movement, right? What goes in must come out. And anything that's not used up by the body ends up going through, the intestinal gut. And if you're drinking things like soda, that stuff can, like, take away the lining of the inside of your stomach, which is something you need because those little tendrils, like, help to get things out that need to get out. And so, yeah, there's good bacteria, right? And then there's the bad bacteria. And so the good bacteria is the one that suffers when you're not eating healthy food, when you're constantly eating either high fat, right, or high sugar foods, foods with chemicals in them. And this is all prepackaged stuff, right? Like it's really easy to eat healthy if you just focus on the whole foods, right? In the, what's the word I'm looking for? The vegetable section, right? The produce section of the grocery store, right? Like we're picking out those fruits and those vegetables, and so they help upkeep that good bacteria, right? And then you have the bad bacteria, which is like, again, eating too many processed foods. You get all this negative stuff in your body that is counteracting with the good bacteria. And two, right, if you're thinking about how your stomach is feeling, your mood is affected, right? It may not seem like the biggest thing in the world, but when you feel out of control in your mood, like it can begin to wear on your body and eventually like the way you're thinking too. Again, when I lost the weight, I really took stock of like what I was eating, and it was a lot of processed foods. And your brain needs the nutrients that are in fruits and vegetables and lean proteins and legumes, that fettuccine Alfredo can't give you. Or eating a bagel. I used to eat a bagel every morning with extra cream cheese from the local bakery, right, when I lived in New York. And anybody's been to New York, the bagels, mwah, right? So, like, it was a lot of processed, and then I would eat pasta during the day, no vegetables, right? And I wasn't emotionally feeling well, right? So you got to remember that the way that you're feeling on the inside is going to affect the way that you're emotionally feeling too, right? Without good gut health, your mood is going to suffer, so making little changes, right? Like I've mentioned, eating whole foods. We are in a world where processed foods are just abundant, right? They're being marketed to us as easy to consume, which maybe they are because they're already prepared, but in terms of the easiness in our body, they are not, right? We have to think about nutrition like our ancestors did, right? When they were eating off the land, right? There was no such thing as processed. Like the most processed food they had was like bread, where that goes through a process with the wheat and all the chemical reactions that go into making bread, right? And even that has turned into something that's over processed, right? Like when you think about white bread and celiac disease, and it's like, well, if the food is over processed, then your gut isn't going to be able to process it. But if you have bread that has nuts and seeds and whole grains, right, like the stuff that like our ancestors used to make, right, that took all day, that type of process is okay, right? So depending on how you're eating, right? So here's some things that you can do, right? So if you're eating a lot of processed food, just switch out one meal a day, right? I think maybe breakfast might be easy because you can do a boiled egg. You can do protein shake, grab some fruit. I know that sometimes as busy mothers, we don't eat breakfast, and breakfast helps to ignite your metabolism so that you can have energy throughout the day. And a lot of mothers just, we're just like, oh, the babies need their thing. I've got to give them their thing while putting myself on the back burner. And that is not how we do this, right? When they say on an airplane, you put your mask on first before assisting others, so that in turn includes your health. And then that way you can model healthy choices to your kids, right? Reading the labels, guys. Like my friend Daphne, love her, mwah. She was in nutrition school. She put me on to reading labels. And this was like 10 years ago, right? Like everybody has been given the gift of reading, right? And obviously I know people are at different reading levels, but If you can turn it around and sound out the word, if you don't know what that means, if it sounds like a chemical, just don't put it in your body, right? So when you're looking at processed foods, unprocessed foods, it's really easy, right? You pick up a cucumber, there's not going to be like a label on a cucumber. You know what's in there. But like a nutrition bar, like again, we're living in a very quick society where sometimes we do need ready-made snacks, but they shouldn't have chocolate in them, or they shouldn't have a lot of soy lectin, which is the glue that holds some stuff together. But we don't need soy in everything, right? Fermented food, so this helps with the gut. So like sauerkraut, as kefir, kimchi, even kombucha, but again, that does have alcohol in it too. So just be wary of kombucha, and the alcohol content. And then yogurt too, right? So all these probiotic foods that help with the gut. And two, when you're thinking about yogurt, like full fat, don't do none of the low fat, no fat, because they just add extra sugar. And if you can download an app, if you're that type of person that like needs an app, I use an app called Yuka, Yuka, and you just scan it. Or, you just use your brain. Like, we need to be informed consumers. We can't be out here going, oh, I'm just going to eat anything and don't care about what happens, because as we get older, that turns into cancer. It turns into liver problems. It turns into gout, high blood pressure, all of that. When you're a kid, your metabolism's super high and you can burn off some of that stuff. But if you keep eating like that into adulthood, Doritos, right? Like, I grew up in the 90s. I'm in my 40s. Right? I was born in the early 80s, and like, it's like Doritos and Twinkies and Ho-Hos, and that stuff is still around. And like the Twinkies and Ho-Hos, I've definitely like figured out how to stay away from. And even now, I've tasted one and I'm like, ooh, it actually tastes like it has chemicals in it. But like the chips are easy. They're not as calorie heavy as, Twinkies and Ho-Hos, but they still have chemicals in it. You see like the blue dye, right? The yellow 5 and all of that. And one of my favorite is the blue Doritos, right? The Cool Ranch. And I turn it around and I read the ingredients and I'm like, if I buy these, I am choosing to put this in my body. And if I do, then, just take the loss, right? There's something called the 80-20 rule, where you can be on point with your eating 80% of the time, and then that 20% that you may fall off on the weekend, it's not going to derail everything that you've done. And this goes with anything, right? So I mentioned replacing your processed breakfast foods, right? Like, I think that's easy because you can get an egg maker. Like, I've got an egg maker that makes like 6 eggs. I've seen some that make 7. It's like 6 on the outside, 1 in the middle. You put a little water in it, you push the button, and you walk away, and you're doing the things you need to do in the morning as a busy parent trying to get your kids off. 10 minutes, the timer goes off, you've got an egg, right? And all you got to do is cool it off. And by the time it cools off within 10 minutes, right, like you put it in some ice water or some cold water, you wrap it up and you go. And then you eat that egg on the road, right? Again, a protein shake. I opt for non-dairy protein, so pea protein is going to be just as effective as like whey protein. Soy, again, like, or I don't know if I've mentioned this in this webinar, but if you are as a woman, if you are still of that age where you can procreate, right, you're making babies, you're not in menopause, perimenopause, then you don't really need a lot of soy. It's when we start losing estrogen, when we get into our late 40s, 50s, 60s, where soy is actually good because it's got that natural estrogen and our estrogen levels are dropping. But again, being an informed consumer, like, there is soy glue, it's called soy lectin, in everything. So, again, getting plenty of fiber, right? So fiber comes in vegetables, fiber comes in whole grains, Um, it helps move the gut, right? So legumes are your new best friends. Beans, peas, lentils, right? And they can also serve as protein as well if you want to go the vegan vegetarian route. Um, but beans are filling, and like these are things that are filling, and they have those nutrients that we need, right, for our brain. And our brain and our gut, like everything is connected. This is the computer that makes everything run. And if the computer's not feeling well, then we got to figure out how to make the computer feel better. And it's the only answer is healthy food, and reading healthy things, like self-help books. I mean, I'm a Gabby Bernstein fan, so I bought her new book. Haven't cracked it open yet because I've been busy, but she's somebody that I've read and that have helped me out of dark times, Deepak Chopra. And again, too, political views in there. It's just pick some things you want to read, right? We do have to give our body that nutrients, but we got to give our mind that nutrients too, right? And if we're constantly watching the news and every horrible thing that's happening, switch it up a little bit, listen to a podcast, listen to, a book I just read, The Miracle Morning. I'm forgetting the Hal Elrod is the author, right? And it's dude, you do these 6 things in the morning. You can give yourself 6 minutes, and you do one of them for each minute. Why can't you make 6 minutes for yourself? And sometimes that looks like 3 minutes. And you know what? I did it. And that is a check instead of beating myself up, right? Okay. Sugar, right? I used to be addicted to sugar, and I can honestly say that I am still addicted to sugar. I just know that I can't have it in my house. Otherwise, I will eat it because I'll make some excuse. I already know. I had somebody gave me a chocolate bar, big old chocolate bar for Christmas. And that thing did not last the weekend. I inhaled that thing between 2 days, and that's a lot of calories. But it's just, I have my own issues with sugar. So cutting down on the sugar, because sugar is going to have adverse effects. It's not giving your brain what it needs. It's not giving your gut what it needs. You get that jolt of energy, but it's not natural, right? And then, you do end up gaining pounds. And you end up too with clogged arteries, right? Or diabetes if you have too much. And that goes for not just the obvious sugar like cookies and cakes, but bread and pasta, right? Those sugars that you're not thinking are sugars, but they're so processed, that's what's going to happen. So, okay, to cut out the sugars, what do, right? You try to cut out the sweet treats first. Right? Again, I know that milk chocolate is my worst enemy, and so I don't keep it in the house. And you can find healthier versions, right? Like trail mix. You even have some of these yogurts that have things in them like chocolate chips, and I'm okay, that might be okay, once a week or every other week or whatever, right? You don't want to have that all the time, but having that yogurt and then, the little strawberry on the side or, and we're talking about the drinks too. So a lot of people don't think about liquid calories, right? And some people think soda, I need that for a quick fix, and coffee is going to give you more caffeine than soda will. And it's a natural caffeine, right? It's the caffeine you need as opposed to this extra stuff, because soda does have more caffeine than coffee, and it's got more caffeine than tea, but it's more caffeine than you need. And people are consuming more in a day, right? So think about if you are drinking soda, cutting one down, right? Just like we did with the foods in the beginning, right? Cutting down off one processed meal a day, cutting out one soda a day. It's hard to go cold turkey, but you just got to wean yourself. And then in those places, you put that healthy snack, right? There's a way to make healthy soda. Again, you don't want to do this all the time, but you get one of those healthy soda makers. You know, you ask for one for Christmas or your birthday. You get the carbonated water, and then you can get like fruit juice. You know, I wouldn't use the pods and stuff. I would use like a natural sweetener, like strawberries, blueberries. I mean, you can jazz up your water that way, right? And so I know they try to get you with the low calorie, no calorie, but dude, the only no calorie drink you should be drinking is water. And then you can add those fruits and vegetables to it, right? Like lemon water, right? A lot of times you go to a restaurant, you get water, they'll offer lemon with it, lemon or lime. You know, you can make a pitcher of water and put like a bunch of berries in it and have it in the fridge. And so you got that berry infused water, right? Don't forget that probiotic, right? So we talked about fermented foods. We talked about yogurt. Again, if you're not doing dairy, find those other probiotic foods, like kimchi or other fermented foods. You know, taking a supplement if you need one. You know, if you're eating a balanced meal, balanced diet throughout the day, right? And balanced meals, you don't really need supplements. But yeah, if you know you're low on iron, take an iron supplement. Or if you know you're low on these other things, you know, it's okay to take those supplements, right? So, you know, your gut impacts every area of your body, including your brain, right? Like the computer. So if your gut is suffering, your mood is going to suffer. So what did we learn, right? We're eating whole foods, right? We're cutting down on the sugar. And again, like you're doing it little by little, eating those probiotics and fermented foods, also getting those beans, those legumes in, right? Another way to fill yourself up, so that you're not eating as much processed food, right? And taking supplements when needed. And then I don't think we even talked about exercise, but you got to get exercise in, right? Like exercise helps to move the food through the gut easier because it ups your metabolism. It keeps your metabolism going. And your metabolism is not just for digestion, it's for everything. Like every part of your body is like going through a metabolized state. And the one that we know of, you know, that's front and center is the metabolism that helps you moderate your weight. So yeah, definitely, you know, weight loss, weight management is 90% food. You do still have to do that 10% of exercise, especially as we're getting older, right? Women, we want to put more calcium in our diets. And again, that does not have to come from cow's milk. But exercise, the one thing that we got to do as we get older is exercise. So that's it. You know, talking about gut and food. So what's next, right? Like if you like what you've seen here, if you have more questions about weight loss, if you're ready for one-on-one or group coaching, you can contact me. Right? I'm not sure why I didn't put my information on here, but I will edit this video and have my email, info@briannawarner.com. Just go to briannawarner.com, right? I'm Brianna Warner on Facebook. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be your coach. Again, like weight loss is emotional, and I infuse healthy thinking with your healthy choices in food. And you know, I see what it did for my life, and I love giving back and helping people reclaim themselves. So yeah, and then also get the free guide that goes with this as well. And I have 7 free days of clean recipes, because who doesn't like free recipes, right? Like we're all trying to figure out how to eat healthy. So I've got that for you. And yeah, thank you so much. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions of weight loss, or if you're ready to take the next step and hire a weight loss coach. Until then, Bree signing off. Peace and love.